Middle Cuff.
Hey, Remit.
Here we go with Sunday night, John, with the people. The way it's supposed to be. Football season, Sunday nights. Get used to it. And as we are recording this, the 49ers and Chargers, they got their fingers in the air, John. Four on the floor. Time to play the alma mater. Fourth quarter ahead in the preseason games. That's our cue to go ahead and start.
Yeah, I agree, G-Rock. Let's get it going.
Oh, man. Big week of, a lot of things happened this weekend. Like, you didn't think I'd watch the Panthers preseason game, and I watched a series of it. So, in your face. That's how I spent some of my Saturday night, just to
I didn't watch shit.
It was not worth it, and I turned it off and moved on with my life very quickly.
Why? I mean, did you attempt to just peek at the Giants-Browns today? It was like, I'm not doing this.
I did. I got there like 8 minutes late, and I missed everything relevant, I think.
Some of these preseason games are terrible.
And some of them have, one of the biggest stories in the NFL going.
I know. Tonight was fun.
Tonight was a good time. So we got a lot to talk about. Before we go any further, before we start getting to the YouTube comments, actually not before we go any further, we are on YouTube. If you don't know about the podcast, get the podcast. If you're on the podcast, you don't know about the YouTube, go check out the YouTube. Let's say that first and foremost, Middlecoff.
Easy to do. Also have a Facebook page. Hey, we're Middlecoff. Go there, like it. All the podcast gets loaded there. We need you to leave questions. You can obviously do it at Apple iTunes. Just leave a review, 5 stars if you like us, 1 star if you don't, 3 stars if you're somewhere in the middle. But just leave a review. Or leave a question in the review section. You can also do it on Facebook as well.
You don't see a lot of 3-star reviews. Not that I'm encouraging them, but it's, usually you go to review something, it's like, oh, it's amazing, or oh, it sucked. There's not a lot of. It's pretty good. I mean, I might eat there again if I'm out of other options.
Yeah, you're right. Indifference doesn't drive people to Apple iTunes, right? You're either going there as a hater,
that's right,
or as a lover.
Yep.
And we like lovers.
Yes, we do. But that's how you get in the mailbag. So get in the mailbag. We appreciate it, and we get to mailbags at the end of every week. I was just looking at the numbers. The last mailbag did very well. So
business is booming.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you for keeping us surviving here, trying to feed our children.
Yeah, and thank you to our sponsor, our friends Tito's Handmade Vodka, John, where as we sit here on a Sunday night, you got your bottle. I'm back to the ginger beer. A lot of people have been sending me photos of their ginger beer, the #1 vodka in America. Of course, is Tito's Handmade Vodka. A lot of people, you've been sending you photos. I'm going to make another drink tonight. Our guy, Devin, gave us a bunch of Tito's options.
What's your drink tonight?
Well, because I got a lot of this ginger beer, I'm going with the Fresh Fruit Mule, John, which is Tito's ginger beer. And I happen to have a can of pineapple juice in the fridge. So it's got...
You go Tito's, you go a little ginger beer, and you go a little pineapple juice, and you got yourself a cocktail?
3 ounces of ginger beer.
Yeah, you got good grip there. We love our friends at Tito's. Austin, American made. No big deal. We try to be pro-America here. Austin, Texas, distilled and bottled by 5th Generation Inc. Austin, Texas, 40%.
Tito's might ask that we do a little more than just read the bottle when we tell people we're sponsored by Tito's.
No, I went out last night in Walnut Creek, dinner with my guy Ryan Fry, and Hawkins actually ended up coming to meet us out, and just the Tito's was absolutely flowing. Ordered Tito's at Rooftop. We went over to Bounty Hunter, ordered some more Tito's. And the Tito's was flowing, and by the time I got home, I was pretty toasty.
I got this little Tito's glass that Devin gave us too. So if you haven't checked it out, I mean, come on, this is the #1 vodka in America, people. It's no accident. So it's great to have them sponsoring the show. But one way or the other, actually, one guy sent me a photo. He said I almost bought a $9 bottle of vodka, and then I thought, no, I'm going to support the podcast, and I'm going to buy some Tito's. And he did. And the beauty of Tito's is they're not blowing out your wallet, but they are bringing double gold, high quality, best of the best, 6-time distilled in copper pots, not columns. Tito himself knows this is the way to do it, John. Distilled and bottled in Austin, 40% alcohol by volume, namely 80 proof, crafted to be savored responsibly. Cheers to
Can't
everybody.
recommend it enough. Yeah, cheers to everybody. Tito's, cheers to you, Tito's, Tito, and all of our Tito's drinkers.
That's good, John. I went a little. This is actually a pineapple mango I used.
All right. That's a flavor.
Podcast also brought to you. We get a lot of comments, some negative, some positive. Trey Lance seems to be a talking point, so we're about to get to that. But before we do, podcast also brought to you by MyBookie.ag. Promo code HAM and the number 1. Back.
Yep. Get your gamble on MyBookie.ag. Promo code HAM1. They will match your deposit up 100%. Put down 1,000, they'll match it. Put down
Usually
500,
50%.
they'll match it.
No, it's 100%?
Yeah. 100%, guy. We got gambling right around the corner, obviously, with football. We have golf tournament that needs to finish Monday morning. Next couple weeks, FedEx playoffs. Jake Paul, I don't know if you've heard of him. He's that YouTube guy. Big fight this weekend. You want to get your gamble on? MyBookie has you covered, absolutely everything. MyBookie.ag, promo code HAM1. Make yourself a Tito's and sodas. Make yourself a Tito's and transfusion. Make yourself the drink the guy just made, Tito's, ginger, and maybe even a little pineapple juice. And go to mybookie.ag, promo code HAM1, place yourself a bet.
I'm actually doing that right now. Can I give you? I want to just check the updated line because I checked on this weekend. I had a thought. I told you about this a couple of weeks ago, but I hadn't checked the line yet. You ready for this? I don't know how many futures bets people go on. If I get this to load here, future bet NFL Coach of the Year. But I like Belichick. I think I checked the other day. What was he?
10-1.
No, I want to say it was even. Here we go. NFL Coach of the Year. Blah blah blah. Belichick, 16-1. I think Bills won it twice. It's been a while since Bills won the award. These awards tend to be given to somebody who we don't necessarily think is going to be great, or we don't exactly know what to make of their team. If Bill rolls out and wins 10 games, goes 10-7, this is the kind of year, you don't get it when you've got a generational quarterback and great defense. Like, it doesn't tend to be who wins the award. But when you're working against kind of what people expect of you, even though people widely recognize Belichick as the greatest ever, I think it could turn into a year where it's an opportunity to give him the award that everybody knows he should have more than twice. So Belichick is 16-1, John. Arthur Smith is 9-1.
Yeah, I wouldn't touch that with a 50-foot pole. I think you're right on Belichick. Odds are incredible, 1. 2, there's just going to be some momentum coming off a terrible season for his standards. I love that. 16-1. I might put $100 on that tomorrow. I love that bet.
All right, there you go. All right, John. A lot to get to. Let's start with this. What exactly was Kyle Shanahan doing or looking for tonight? We have not. It was pretty. It was not traditional the way he intended to start the game. What his plan was, but his plan kind of went out the window as it turned out.
Well, Jimmy ended up playing 15, plays. Right, they had a long first drive. When it got announced with John Lynch, and it felt like they kind of did that on purpose, like he was being interviewed before the game on the field with those guys and kind of announced that, almost like setting the tone. I immediately text you because you were the lone guy who I thought it was over. Everyone kind of feels like it was over. Jimmy was going to start. Then it was, whoa, is this thing what these media people see in practice, and you and I have been to some of these practices, unless you're actually talking to Kyle and the staff about what they truly believe when they go back and watch the tape. Like when I was a part of training camps, you spend so much time watching the practice film, discussing the practice film, evaluating the practice film. So what you see on the practice field is obviously it all happens there, but then the discussion of it is such a huge part, and we're not privy to any of that. And Kyle, clearly with this situation, I think there's a lot going on internally that the media is just off on. And I saw tonight when it was announced, and I'm guilty too, but clearly that Trey had an opportunity to still be the starter week 1 headed into tonight, I think. Kyle can say whatever he'll talk after the game. We're doing it before he talks. He can say whatever he wants. Like, you don't do the Taysom Hill, Jameis, I guess Drew Brees thing that they had intended to do without some thoughts of like, let's just see who the better man is tonight.
Yeah. When we talked about it Thursday, Kyle said we're going to evaluate whether or not Trey Lance gets some first-team reps on Friday. And so our take on Thursday was basically like, if he's not getting first-team reps on Friday, this thing is over. Right? Now, he kind of couched it at the time and not, hey, this is a competition. More so, I just want him to play against Derwin James and Joey Bosa. Guys like that, they're not playing in this preseason game. So the only chance he's going to get to play against guys like that is in Friday's practice. So we kind of wait. Friday rolls around. He gets first-team reps. Then we get the plan. He's going to get 2 first-team series, and then Jimmy's going to come back. But then Jimmy got a 15-play drive, ended in a pick, by the way. And then Trey, which we'll get to how Trey looked. Then he doesn't look great. So then he plays more and plays more and plays more. And it goes from me saying at the beginning of the game, not that many guys who don't have a chance to start get to play with the ones in the preseason, to not that many guys who have a chance to start are playing in the third quarter of the preseason. Yeah. So I think all of that is to say, maybe to some degree for Kyle, it's a pretty fluid situation. Well, as we watched the last 3 days, Thursday, no Trey ones. Friday, Trey ones. Saturday, they had a plan to start the game, and the plan changed. This is a very fluid situation. I don't know if it's fluid in Kyle's mind, let me put it that way, but it is fluid in the way it's playing out.
Yeah, that's where I'm going to give you a lot of credit, that you were one of the lone guys. It was way more fluid than the way I think it was perceived on the outside, from the media to the fans, right? Because I would imagine if you were just polling people this last week, oh, Jimmy's just going to start, right? That just was the feeling. That's what I felt. That just kind of was the overall feeling. Kyle in his back pocket was not feeling that, though, right? That's clearly what happened. Then tonight, he pivoted fast, too. I don't want to say it's over, because now I had to reevaluate some things when they came into this game. But it did go pretty well for Jimmy, the way that whole thing started. He let him down. The problem is, we'll get into Jimmy here in a second, at the end of the day, this is where I have to realize when evaluating the situation, Jimmy is not some top 10 quarterback. So there was a highlight that came out a couple days ago in the heated practices against these guys. Jimmy throws a pick six against Derwin James. And when you watch the highlight of it,
in the baby zone,
the throw is terrible, right? Derwin's all over Kittle, but he throws it like behind Kittle when he's covered. It's just these things that clearly in practice, it's not like Jimmy separates like he's some top 8 guy in the league who just dominates, right? It's just not happening. So Trey in these practices, to Kyle, is staying alive. But eventually, like, there is a difference in making some sweet reps against Derwin James for sure. And while the game scenario tonight, he's playing against backups. Like, that's who they were all playing against, right? With the starters for the Chargers not in the game. But it is a fucking game, and they're trying to sack you, and you just went, well, there's a lot going on right now for the young fella.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Now, you're right. Like, even if you've got 9 starters on the field, if you don't have Derwin James and Joey Bosa, if you don't have Fred Warner and Nick Bosa, then it's a different team. But, I don't think it's irrelevant that he looked the way he looked by the end. I don't know. I don't think it'll be irrelevant to Kyle that he led a nice touchdown drive against third-teamers in the third quarter or whatever it was. That's why he had him out there, because he thought it'd be valuable experience.
Well, he threw 2 touchdowns.
He just needs to be thrown to Sherfield.
Yeah, but I mean, he legitimately led 2 touchdown drives, like threw 2 touchdowns. Threw one to Benjamin and obviously threw one to Sanu in the red zone. Like, he threw 2 touchdowns. Now, this is what gets difficult about the preseason, and this is why I think Kyle, like, ultimately, the guy hasn't played that much. Like, to me, if you could have easily justified, I think they're kind of trying to throw Sudfeld a bone because he hadn't played a snap, is that you could have played him the whole second half, right? He just needs work. He just needs time. He just needs work. Like, to me,
I don't know how much you want to put playing behind like a third string offensive line, but
yeah, I mean, that's probably why they ended up pulling him out. But he's everything you'd want he's a project, a good project. He's a talented project. But I think, as you see tonight, like, it's a work in progress project.
Yeah. And
this, I'm getting people tweeting at me like, I bet he's furious about Mac Jones. The whole thing about this draft pick was this had nothing to do with Week 1, 2021. I would, if that's the way you're thinking when you make a trade like that, you deserve to get fired. And I'm just talking in general. It is a big picture draft pick. Right? It was never even about 2021. It's about the next 5, 10. It's a decade. That's what it's about when you make a pick, in the top 5 at a quarterback, right?
Right.
The big picture. And clearly, like right now, because if you wanted to argue, if you need to win a game tomorrow, I would say you might be better off with Mac Jones. Tomorrow, 2021, August 23rd. And that might not be true because Trey can run around too, but just to like run your offense, like, you probably have Mac Jones would give you the better chance to win. Well, but that's not what the draft pick was about.
Well, you just said it, though, too. Trey Lance runs by design in practice more than he has run in any of these preseason games by design, right? And so that has to be part of what, like Kyle Shanahan, the thing that he has guaranteed Trey Lance is going to do, which is appear in games. He said it weeks ago. Trey's going to play. We've kind of had that in mind. Like, he's going to play because he's got these run packages at minimum that you think he can execute, right? Threaten the defense with. And that's not available to him in the preseason. And, you nailed that a few weeks ago. You're like, I don't think he's going to run him, and I don't think it's because of injury. I think it's because you don't want to show this stuff. And I said, well, whatever. Who cares about showing it? Like, everyone's seen these plays. But he's not doing it. And you're right. I don't think it's about safety. I think it's about protecting the part of his offense that he absolutely knows that he's going to use early in the year, which is Lance at minimum as a change-up to Garoppolo. And so if we're evaluating, is he ready to play? And we've talked about for months too, you could do a training wheel offense like they did with RG3, and RG3 was the rookie of the year that went to the playoffs. Well, there's some elements of that offense you wouldn't show in a preseason game. So that's what complicates it a little bit.
But I have no problem with the training wheel offense to start with any young player, and especially a young player that needs it. Like, if he needs some training wheels, I got no problem with putting him on.
Yeah.
But big picture, to me, when you watch the game tonight and they're not making him run really through the 2 preseason games, he needs, for this pick to work out and him to become a really good player, he's going to have to win throwing the ball, right? We often talk about running quarterbacks. Like, his running element is cool. That's a cool addition to have.
Right.
But ultimately, to be a great quarterback, you have to dominate throwing the ball. And you just watch him. I think he's still feeling out touch passes, when to put too much on it, when to not put too much on it, accuracy stuff. Kyle, who probably makes $11-12 million a year because he got that 6-year extension after the Super Bowl. I'm sure he makes stupid money. This is why he gets paid all this money. You got to mold this. He's called a coach, right? Now, the problem is in the season, once the season starts, it is hard to really improve, right? I do think you get better through playing, but you're not he kind of is what he is this year. He's just going to be raw. The more he plays, the better he'll be. But I don't think you're going to act like week 2 to week 10, you're going to get some dramatic, like you do year 1 to year 2, right? Year 2 to year 3. There would be a lot of ups and downs with a guy who's just pretty, you see, he's raw. A lot of stupid physical attributes, but very, very raw.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think part of when you watch him too, you realize he is, I don't know if it's because they've told him. I don't think it's because they've told him. I think it's naturally him. He's not looking to run on non-run plays. He did it on the goal line on the 2-point conversion, but he tries to stay in the pocket, and sometimes to his detriment, right? And this goes back to some of the biggest highlights. The biggest highlight of camp was a play that should have been a sack. Well, in these games, it's a sack or almost a strip sack.
Yeah. This is why, to me, he left him in the game, because you need the reps where there's a finality to the play, not where it's the whistle blows, but he gets to keep scrambling in a practice. You're like, oh, throw that on Twitter. That he either has to throw the ball, get sacked, run the play ends, right? That you know what actually happened. That's my problem with the practice stats. It's I don't think anyone really. This goes back to what we opened up talking about. It's hard to truly judge what Kyle knows when everyone on the sideline doesn't truly know whether the play was over to the coaches or not, right? They let it keep going, but in their mind, they might not count any of that shit, right? But to us on the sideline, it looks like an unreal throw. And it's hard for people when you're not at these practices. Sometimes it is difficult to know, is that when they're sitting there in their meeting, does that just get a 0? Does that just get X? Doesn't even count, right?
Right.
It really is hard to tell sometimes.
Right.
Where in the game, that is not the case. And for a guy who really has just played 1 game in 2 years, again, I'm not trying to jump off the bandwagon here of just the guy has immense talent, but I think it is fair to go that there is just it's a work in progress. And I think we often do this, and I am as guilty as charged and as anyone, is that we can just get ahead of ourselves with young players in sports, right? It's not even just football, but definitely in football with quarterbacks. We have so much, so fast. It's fuck it. It's kind of unfair sometimes, even to a player. But that's part of getting drafted really high. It comes with the heat, right? Especially a quarterback.
Yeah. Well, let's talk more specifically about the way he played, because I thought after the first couple of quarters, definitely the first couple of series, I think everyone was in agreement that he was not comfortable, or however you want to say it. It wasn't good. And I don't put a ton of stock in what happened in the third quarter as, the Chargers played lesser players. Not that they played their starters to start with necessarily, but my takeaway watching this thing, and part of this is about Garoppolo, is this is not Aaron Rodgers he's trying to beat out here, right? Garoppolo threw an interception on his series, and I thought I felt a couple of people texted me Ayuk's got to catch that. I think Brandon Ayuk's going to be great. I can't give him a gotta catch that. I know everybody who's ever said anything about football loves to say if it hits your hands, you got to catch it, but it was a bad throw.
If you touch it, clutch it, bro.
It was a bad throw.
That's mainly receiver coaches, and then every fan piggybacks off that.
Well, it's every analyst eventually says it on TV too, but I think what we saw tonight was
it was a terrible throw.
Terrible throw. Okay. I thought what we saw tonight was a guy who has not earned the starting job, but clearly needs to play. And that's where you're in a tough spot. Right? You're not starting him purely as a project because you're trying to win football games.
Do you agree? Do you view him as a project when you watch him? I think that has a negative connotation, but it's
yeah, I guess there's different projects, right? There are some projects that project means you cannot play this year. I don't view him that way.
Yeah.
I do think part of the equation here is how good is Garoppolo really going to be, and how badly does Trey Lance need game playing experience? Again, he hasn't earned the right to be the week 1 starter, but I do watch him, and I think it's very clear to me that he needs to play games. So what do you do?
He's going to get to play. He's getting thrown into games.
Yeah, well, and hopefully he gets better. I'm just saying, I have not, for me personally, I'm not saying Kyle's going to do this at all. And I think everybody else tonight, it sounds like you're in this camp, is it's over for Trey Lance's opportunity to start week 1. And I agree with that. But for me personally, I am not convinced that he shouldn't be playing. Just because, again, I think what we saw tonight was the result of a guy that needs to be playing because he hasn't played.
Well, when you deal with a project / young player / the guy that's going to be a work in progress. So even if he's not, because I do think when you say project, you're right. People think a guy that you're working with in practice, see a year or 2 years later. Let's just go a major work in progress. It is hard. Is Kyle, because here's where the position battle would not be set. If he's okay with taking a step back to maybe have a couple forward by mid-October. Because he goes, this guy's only going to improve. If he believes that he's going to dramatically improve just as he plays, as you saw tonight, first series, a lot going on. Now, granted, it's hard to tell, how many, second stringers getting yanked by third stringers by the end of the half. He starts looking better, and then he comes out with multiple touchdown drives. But, what if that's just, maybe he'll just get better as you put him in games in terms of, he'll be a lot going on early, and then the more he plays. But if you do this Taysom Hill style, where you bring him in, you bring him out, it's hard for a young guy to get a rhythm who is not, doesn't have a rhythm to begin with. So they're kind of in a tough spot. You could, I wouldn't say easily justify, but you could justify, we're just going with him and we're going to fucking live with it. And we think we're good enough around him to figure it out.
I think you could.
Now he's way more physically gifted than Jimmy, and Jimmy's fucking erratic, right? That's the other thing. Jimmy is erratic.
Here's the thing, John. Jimmy is going to open the door for Trey Lance to play this year, to start a game.
The door's open right now, right?
Well, yeah.
That shows you.
Yeah, but that was the challenge. Is that Trey Lance hasn't walked through it, right? In games.
But even tonight, a big reason to me why I'm sure Jimmy just didn't. It was 15 plays, but think how that drive ended on just a horrendous pass. So to me, Kyle yanked him because he'd played a lot, but he's not thinking oh my God, he just sliced him and diced him down the field. It ended up with a fucking turnover.
It ended the way it ends. We've seen it. We've seen that story before. Now, does that beat the Lions in a way that Trey Lance doesn't? It might. Week 1
it would be hard, in my opinion, for Jimmy Garoppolo to lose the Lions. Trey would be a losable player just because he could throw 4 picks in a game. Now, obviously, Jimmy could too, but it's probably more likely that happens against the Rams, right?
He could also just hand the ball off a lot and do a few design runs, right?
Yeah.
That was my main takeaway of this game. It's not Trey Lance can't play. It's Trey Lance needs to play, but he hasn't actually earned it. But again, I think we've seen enough of these seasons. I'm not talking about injury here. I think Trey Lance is going to start a game this year, at least for the 49ers. I think Garoppolo's going to allow for it, right?
100%. You also can throw away, quote unquote, earned and merit stuff. I do think when you draft a guy really high, I would say
it makes
most
it
of the
hard
time
when your team is also trying to win, though, right?
Jimmy's situation, he's had some success
because Andy Dalton hasn't been there.
No, well, he has no equity with the guys.
I'm not even sure which guys he needs to have. Who on offense should he have equity with in Chicago?
Yeah, I mean,
they
Allen
don't have
Robinson,
George Kittle.
maybe.
Yeah, okay. Like George Kittle's not on that team, right? Trent Williams.
Well, like tonight's a good example on the touchdown drive when he hit Sherfield on the one play. It was an elite play call, right? He schemes it open, and Sherfield's running wide open. Now he hits him, and then he got some rhythm. But that to me is like your best advantage. This is where the preseason, I was talking to a buddy with the Eagles. The Patriots got fucking worked in practice. Belichick ain't a practice guy. I mean, obviously he loves to practice, but his huge point of difference is going to be the game, right? When he can scheme, like he uses practice as like homework, like what's right, what's wrong, so he can get to the test. And the test is where he gets, 98s out of 100s. Kyle, like the preseason, like his strongest attribute are play calls and schemes up against the defense. So if you wanted to counter, like, well, he hasn't quite earned it, but your coach is an incredible schemer that he can just get him all these easy reads just to get him some confidence that doesn't necessarily happen in these situations where you're just even, whatever the play call is, it's just a play call. It's not necessarily because we think their tendency on this 3rd and 7 is to be on this coverage so we can get this one route that's going to be wide open, Trey. Get ready for it. That's not really what they're doing here. You're just kind of like learning by doing, which is a good thing, but it just is a little backyard football. And it's like this for every team relative to how the actual sport is played. A huge part of the sport is game plan, right? All week long, you get scenarios, you have things to do. Now, eventually you have to make plays on top of that, which you can see this guy has some physical attributes to make those plays, but you do have to just kind of figure it out how to do that once you're playing. But you also get built in just kind of some easy plays when you have games with a great play caller.
Yeah, yeah. And Cam Newton probably, everything you just said applies to Cam too, right? Cam and Bill as a combination, probably not great practice. Cam's not built for practice.
It looks awful.
A lot of people I saw a lot of indecision, hesitation, which was there. I saw a guy actually, now he took a couple of, I think it was 2 sacks. I don't have the box score in front of me, but just I think
the right tackle was smoked,
that was the later one. I saw a guy that also moves pretty well in the pocket, though. So for me, I have not. It's not over for me for the preseason. I'm not saying it's not over for Kyle. It might be, but I don't think it should be over. Maybe that's the better way to put it. I don't think it should be over between these two guys because, again, he clearly needs to play. He doesn't look like he's better than Jimmy Garoppolo in terms of a quarterback competition for week 1 of the NFL season. But Trey Lance needs to play football games, and that's
to me, if you're Kyle,
later.
Are you cool with just starting him and living with some of his 2 or 3 pick games and just some disasters? Because if you are, then it's a no-brainer.
Well, John, here's the other thing: is like because you're barely getting any reps, it's hard to really know what is the worst case scenario with him, right? Is it 4 picks in a game, or is it a few missed throws, but against a lesser opponent, Jimmy will do that too, and our defense is good enough, and we can run the ball, and it'll be fine.
Yeah, it could be, a strip sack. Could be just being loose. It
I
could
think
just be overwhelmed by blitzes and just different looks. But
again, this is what Shanahan does offensively. He can help.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So
now,
to me, if you're cool with living through it, just do it.
Someone pointed out in the chat he's not as fast as RG3, and it's not exactly like Robert wore that season well as time went on, right?
That's the thing, guy. He is not a blazer. So the runs are not
for 30 yards. Just run for 5 instead of a sack. That's fine.
Yeah, that's all they need him to do. To me, where they need him to be is like an explosive thrower. And I think you saw tonight a couple times, made me a little nervous, was like, oh, where's the touch there? And it could just be as simple as, it's his first preseason game on the road. A lot of emotions, looked amped up. He felt like as the game went on, got a little got it under control. There were a couple passes you went, whoa! But back to what, it's not like Jimmy doesn't do that too. It's not like you're playing with fucking Drew Brees. Exactly. I can understand why Saints fans were like, why do we keep bringing Taysom Hill in? We have one of the best quarterbacks of all time. That is not the case here, right? That is just not the case at all. Jimmy is an inaccurate, mistake-prone, kind of a playmaker, but can also not make plays.
He made a play in the pocket, getting out of the pocket today. Looked pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, he's a solid NFL quarterback. He's 15 to 20. So think about that. That's how Kyle could act. Like, yeah, I got this guy that I could easily win some games with, and we go back to the playoffs with this guy. I also got a guy that I just drafted with all these picks I traded for, who has way more talent and also might make some mistakes, but don't I want this guy in 2 years to look back, like, remember when we played him early at benefits? That's my entire take on starting young guys.
I think you're right.
So then in 2023, it's like, yeah, that stretch in October, man, when it was a struggle, I look back on now, and I've been able to build off that. The first time when those nickel blitzes used to really fuck me up, me and Kyle figured it out, and by the third year, we eat those alive.
Well,
right?
There's always often people draw the comparison to Mahomes and Alex Smith, but the difference in the comparison is not the difference in the comparison is the starter. Like Alex, fundamentally, less mistakes.
Yeah.
So that was more about Alex. Like, we think we got a really good football team. Let's play it safe here. How safe are you really playing it if Garoppolo is your quarterback? Again, I'm not saying he shouldn't start week 1. I'm just saying I wouldn't take what happened against the Chargers for me with Trey Lance to mean Trey Lance can't do it. Because I think he might be able to do it right now, and I also think he needs to play. He needs to play games.
But if we put that situation in a vacuum, it's crazy how it's materialized, and Mahomes has gone into this superstardom and the way everything's played out. There was zero pressure on Mahomes like there is in this situation. He got, in a weird way, got to fly under the radar he's probably, wouldn't you say, of all the rookies the last 5-6 years that were drafted really high, like top 20, no one had less pressure on him than Mahomes somehow? Because it felt like the lead into the draft wasn't that high on him.
No, the Deshaun was a big debate about Deshaun coming into the draft, right? Dabo Swinney said he's going to be great. Yeah, you're right.
I just think also, if you look at Mitch that year, when Mitch got drafted number 2, not that getting drafted 10 or 12 or, it's not, that's really, really high. When you get drafted 1, 2, or 3, there is he was drafted 3rd, but I think he's talked about like he was the number 1 overall pick because of the trade.
The 2?
He gets that type of hype, right? Trey.
Oh, Trey.
Just because of the trade.
Yeah, but it was a 3rd quarterback taken. Yeah, you're right. He's just the most intriguing.
No, I know,
because there's a debate. I guess Urban wants us to think there's a Jags debate. But he's the one of the 3 of them that has to earn it, right?
Yeah.
So maybe that's part of it. I don't know. Yeah, it's interesting.
Just when you trade that much for a player, the hype on Trey Lance is added by the trade, right? And rightfully so. He was drafted 3rd overall. The team fucking traded all these picks for him. Like that, that's part of
and people are less conditioned to think Trey Lance is great coming into the draft because they've watched Trevor Lawrence for 3 years. They watched nothing but sweet highlights for Zach Wilson all year long. Yeah,
there is no built-in. He has no equity with anybody besides just hype. Yeah, and the hype did get out of control.
Maybe. I'm not swinging back and forth. I'm
not either. I'm just saying when you hype. But this is, But
John, what was the hype? The hype was he might be able to start right away, and I still think he might be able to start right away.
No, the hype is that in practice when he makes these incredible plays, I'm part of the hype. Like I'm not acting like I'm above it.
But what I'm saying is so what? I saw the plays. He made incredible plays.
But this is back. Like, were they really incredible, or could he have been sacked?
Well, he could have been sacked, but they were still incredible. Like it's just.
Yeah, he's got great physical ability.
I don't think we should be just like revisiting the hype here.
No, but I'm just saying but the hype adds to this craziness where we're at with this guy.
Yeah, you're right. I'm just saying don't give up on the hype yet.
He's got more hype, but my point is like he has way more hype coming into these games than Trevor Lawrence and Zach Wilson do at their own camps. Like there's a lot of hype on this guy.
Yeah, no, you're right. I'm agreeing with you, but I'm also saying you don't say. I feel like you're saying it like we should back off it. Okay.
Well, because sometimes it's unfair. Like these games are fucking hard. It's a hard sport.
It is unfair. I don't think it changes anything for him. Like I doubt he's.
No, I'm not saying to stop him, but it just shows you that like it is just that. It's hype. it doesn't actually equal that like he's ready to dominate or he's not. Like you don't know.
I'm not even
and
sure
you could
that
argue
any
these
of it's been unfair. Let's see.
No. Well, you could argue these preseason games don't mean fucking dick. I mean, it was really just that simple. The preseason, one thing we learned tried and true, it doesn't mean anything. Anything.
Well, sometimes it means something.
When though?
Really? I mean, Russell Wilson, he won the job, he became a star.
Well, yeah, but I mean, but what does that have to do with like his career, like his preseason?
Well, I'm just saying he won the job in the preseason, and then he became their starting quarterback. So they started right away with Russell because of how he played in preseason games.
Yeah, I'm not saying that the preseason doesn't impact like whether you can start. I'm just saying the actual tangible, like what you do in a game, doesn't actually it won't be irrelevant by week 4 or 5. Now, if he had been incredible, maybe he would have won the job.
But my point is it's not that everything that happens in the preseason, all of it, we can't figure out what any of it means. Some of it doesn't mean anything. Some of it means stuff. It's hard to know what's what because there's so many moving parts. Who played with who, all that stuff.
Yeah, I guess my point is, good or bad though, it doesn't necessarily. We see time and time again that like the regular season doesn't have any parallel to the preseason because there's no game plan.
Yeah, but I do think it's hard for us to know what mattered when we watched the preseason. But I do think there is stuff that is there. Labrat says, can Lance fix his accuracy issue? He doesn't seem to throw a catchable ball. I would say, yeah. That's the funny thing about some of these games. Now, games aren't practice, but I thought one of his greatest strengths after practices that I've watched is how consistently he's accurate. It hasn't looked that way. Things speed up, people are around you, you can get hit, whatever. But I still think he's going to be an accurate quarterback.
Yeah, that is to me where I just saw a couple things tonight. I just don't know if it's like his first couple game action. It's a little overwhelming. It was like, whoa.
Yeah.
Just some of the touch stuff that I guess my overall take, there's a lot more unknown when you see games than you realize that in practice. Games are a different animal for younger players. Because he made a couple throws tonight, like the Kaepernick comparison is just. It was like, why are you throwing a 100-mile-an-hour fastball there? It was bad. Like it just, but that's part of the maturation of a project, right? When I say a project, like in 2-3 years, can he get away from not doing it? Like Kaepernick never could. Kaepernick was one of the most physically gifted projects in the history of the league. His problem is like there was no he just stayed. He could never improve.
Right.
And that's the unknown with a young talent. It's like, can he really improve? And usually the only way to improve is you just eventually have to do it, right? He's going to get opportunities to do it. Can he just do it? But it's early on. There could be like some head-scratching plays from a young fella.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. Okay, speaking of early on, coming up early on Monday morning, Middlecoff, weather trying to hold Middlecoff off in the Haberman and Middlecoff DraftKings League. But if you're listening to this and the golf tournament's still going on, you're in third place as we record this on Sunday night after a day of postponement. Can Middlecoff get his first ever DraftKings win in this league? It's been over a 12-month, 13, 14-month drought, I think, for you. Somehow you've often been in, points positions, but you've never. You're like you're like the other guy who drives for Mercedes. Like you're just always around. But you never get to win. But Batali or whatever the guy's name is.
Yeah, I want this one guy, and not even for the money, just out of pride. And I would love a win. And where you get to win, because you get to win money, DraftKings, just download the app, use the promo code HAM. It's simple. Like for golf, you just set your lineup. They give you $50,000. It works the same way in football. And you put the team, build it under their salary cap. It's pretty incredible. And then all of a sudden, you look down midway through a golf tournament or an NFL Sunday and you're winning, especially when we do bigger games, you might be able to win $300, $400, $500, depending on the games. We had a Masters game where I think the winner got, $800?
Yeah.
So it's like you can win every week money. You can play in other games. I know you've done it and I've done it because it's like, oh, my lineup is sweet. I'll just get into another game for like $5 with the opportunity to win like $100,000. And download the DraftKings app now. Use the code HAM for a limited time. New players can get a free shot at $1 million during the week 1. Don't miss out on the action. Enter promo code HAM. Free shot at $1 million in prizes with your first deposit. That's code HAM only at DraftKings. Official daily fantasy partner of the National Football League. Minimum $5 deposit required. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings DraftKings.com for details.
DraftKings is going to be great for the football season in our league, so get in it. We'll be playing a ton. Oh, by the way, podcast also, look who's back. Back again. Manscaped.com, promo code HAM. Do you have the Manscaped read?
I do.
Can you start it while I get my my shipment?
Yeah, listen, we have been partners with Manscaped for a couple years. There is not a better ball trimmer. And listen, I'm a hairy guy. That's where Manscaped comes in. You go to manscaped.com, promo code HAM. Here's what. I've gotten the Manscaped, the Lawnmower 2.0. Then they came out with the 3.0. Now they have the 4.0. It's pretty incredible. It has a USB charger, really easy to use. There is no noise. You know, some of the trimmers can be like, "Brrr." This one is it's nice and quiet. Multifunction, waterproof, LED spotlight. New trimmer even allows you to customize your trim. Some people don't want to be, too tight there. You can go sizes 1 to 4. Sleek, optimize the Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer. Waterproof, like I said. Get on it right now.
Manscaped.com, promo code HAM.
Yep. 20% off, free shipping with code HAM at manscaped.com. No person wants to end up with pubes in their mouth.
Is that part of the
your
read?
balls will thank you. Yeah, that's what it says. No person.
I went to find my the stuff that Manscaped sent me, which was the Lawnmower 4.0 and the nose hair trimmer, which tickles. And my roommate / wife, I don't know where she put it. It's somewhere. I gotta go find it. But
yeah,
we got hidden, and if it wasn't
Manscaped.com, promo code HAM, 20% off, free shipping. Get on it right now.
All right. Great to have Manscaped back. Go support. We appreciate. All right. So we talked a lot about Trey Lance. Where does Jimmy Garoppolo stand right now in all of this?
Did you ever see Ace Ventura 2?
Yeah. What's the plot of Ace Ventura 2?
Yeah, I think he goes to like Africa.
Oh yeah. Nature Calls.
Yeah, Nature Calls. So the way the movie starts is he's climbing the rock and he has a squirrel friend and they're going across the rock and he ends up dropping the squirrel and the squirrel falls to its death and he's holding it like by its little paw and he's just holding on for dear life. Ace Ventura, Pet Detective. That to me feels like Jimmy Garoppolo. I had it incredible. I went to YouTube. I cut the video. If Trey had come in and thrown a couple touchdowns right away, that was going to be my tweet. Just that scene where he drops the squirrel. But unlike Jimmy's still holding on to the squirrel.
Save that one for later. The opportunity will come.
He does not have a great stranglehold on it, right? We've seen the movies for years, cartoons, when the rope starts to splinter. Like, it's not ripped yet, but it clearly had more splintering than I thought coming into the game. And then again, for a guy that like is this rhythm, really everything's quick and he's on time. The ball all the time. The 49ers do not have Julio Jones and Randy Moss, right? Or Calvin Johnson. Most of their receivers are smaller. And Jimmy, they tell you like you went skeet shooting when you went to Montana. It's a lot harder to be accurate with a gun than people think with their toy guns. When you're aiming it to the side and you're screwing around with your friends, like when you're like a 10-year-old, you wouldn't hit a soul. Well, Jimmy sometimes is like that with his arm where it's just like, oh, the guy's wide open. And then Jimmy throws and the dude has to like do a 360 to even attempt to catch the ball. Like I just feel like Kyle is never going to be into that. Never. For a guy that doesn't, it's not like he's got some big arm or he scrambles a lot. I know he did scramble tonight, but the pick is the ultimate, like, that's why he can't just be the starting quarterback and just redshirt Trey Lance.
Yeah. Yeah, it's Kyle Shanahan will happily name Trey Lance a starter. He would have if Trey Lance had beaten Jimmy Garoppolo out. He is not. This is my weekly announcement. Kyle is not like emotionally attached to Jimmy. He is not giving it to Jimmy because Jimmy's earned it in the locker room or some BS like that. Trey hasn't taken it from him. But Kyle Shanahan, again, not that I probably shouldn't keep saying this. The man traded up to 3. Like. It wasn't, and it don't buy the lie that it's just because Jimmy's been hurt sometimes. It's not.
Were you watching Monday Night Countdown on Friday night with Steve Young?
I saw the video you sent me. Is that what you're talking about?
He was pretty impassioned of like, what are we waiting for? Like, we don't, why are we keep acting like Kyle is tied to Jimmy? Look at what he just traded. Like, the writing is on the wall. Because
Totally.
Steve's thing was start him from the jump. He didn't think Jimmy's good enough.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Well,
like, and they already showed you that through their actions.
Nothing's changed with him. This is why I keep saying this is not about the fact that he gets hurt. This is about the fact that he's not good enough to be a top 5 quarterback, which Kyle Shanahan has said that you need. He said it on McVay's podcast. He said it. You need a top 5 quarterback in this league. He doesn't have one as his starting quarterback right now.
No.
That's why he traded up to 3. So this is do not buy the lie that they drafted Trey Lance because Jimmy Garoppolo gets hurt. No, it's not why they did it. It's part of it, but they also did it because they evaluated Garoppolo and decided he's not a top 5. He's not a good enough quarterback to be like the guy that carries you, which is what they think, rightly so, they need. So nothing's changed with him. Nothing's changed. Okay? And so here's what we know then, if we just use history as our guide. The opportunity for Trey Lance to become the starting quarterback is going to present itself based on Garoppolo's play. It's going to happen. Yeah, I don't know when. I don't know if you can plan it like we've talked, like, oh, it's after the bye or week 1 against the Lions, soft landing, whatever. But it's going to present itself.
Well, it did tonight when he threw the pick.
Of course it did.
He led him on the drive. He threw the pick, and it was like, I'm thinking if Trey has a couple good drives here, he's going to be the starting quarterback by the Oakland Raider game. I guess Vegas Raiders. Depending, you have to ask Mark Bedane for the updated. Does he still consider them there? Yeah, had some issues for SummerSlam, but
fibrous crowd.
he throws every ball so high. That's why I just don't understand why every ball is so high.
Maybe it's part of his quick release. I'm not even kidding.
Every fucking ball is high.
Maybe it's something about maybe the ball comes out quicker because he lets go of it a little too soon. I'm not.
You know how sometimes with Alex, for example, his balls always felt like a little lower, but it always understandable, right? He didn't have the arm strength. So just on an out route.
Who always throws the ball with like a downward point? Somebody.
Carson Wentz?
No, he just throws it hard.
Somehow he's back. You see that?
Okay.
Carson Wentz back in practice tomorrow. So Quentin Nelson. But yeah, just.
What happened was the Colts watched their Ellinger and Eason, and we're like, oh, we can't do this.
Well, did they see? I mean, when you don't watch the preseason, you don't even know that the Colts played. I know they would have had to play this weekend. I couldn't tell you one thing about their game, and I feel great about it.
I can tell you that I read a Roto World highlight that said they weren't impressive. Or headline. But
yeah, I mean, it's just Jimmy's in some trouble, and which is crazy. Like you bring up Russell Wilson, for example. He had been like a 4-year starter, right? So a lot of these guys have been playing. Even Justin Fields, he's been playing so much football. Trey hasn't played that much football, right? Because this year did not happen for him. So Jimmy not only had a built-in lead, just because he already knew the offense, but then this guy just has to figure it out. Like, never played in games. He's really only played one game the last 2 years. Like, there's a lot going on, and Jimmy is still barely fending him off. So it does show you that, like, Jimmy's starting career, just big picture, like, is he an 8 more year starter, or is he transitioned to become a backup pretty fast again? And honestly, what Jimmy's best role might be the best backup in the league.
Yeah, that guy ends up starting sometimes, right?
Yeah, because he plays on teams like Denver, right?
Aaron says, guys acting like Garoppolo isn't giving this thing away. He's got 11 touchdowns and 10 interceptions in camp. I'm not acting like that at all. I don't care about those camp numbers as it relates to this conversation. I'm saying he is who we thought he is. He's been the same guy the whole time, and that is going to allow for an opportunity for Trey Lance to play because nothing's changed.
But this goes back to these numbers. I don't listen. I fucking like Grant and Lombardi, but I those numbers they don't mean a goddamn thing to me because I don't even know what they mean. Because if you go to practice, they don't like. When you play in a game and whatever your final stats are, like that happened, right? The guy either caught it, he dropped it, you got sacked, the play ended. That is not the way.
Kinda. Now we got the PFF numbers, so even the box score is a little.
But I don't ever look at
scouting.
PFF. A PFF number doesn't mean dick to me either. So the only numbers that mean something to me, I watch the game and then I look at the stats. Then I watch and then I kind
But
of.
even you, for years, have used the phrase "don't be a box score scout," right? It's even the box score doesn't.
Well, that's what I'm
tell
saying.
the
You got to
whole story.
watch him play. Like Jimmy's inaccurate. Trey was inaccurate. Like the 49ers had an accuracy problem in the first half, right? And then think about his 2 touchdowns. Because if you just look at the box score, he threw 2 touchdowns. You go, well, one came at the end of the first half, and the second one came in the start of the second half, right? So it's like his numbers just, if you just box score scouted it, like, if me or you hadn't watched, you'd be like, damn, Trey, pretty good, right? Because they both threw a pick. The one guy threw 2 touchdowns. Like, you're like, oh, I watched the drives when they felt like they mattered, and it didn't look great.
Yeah, neither one of them felt like automatic wins.
Yeah, Jimmy definitely not.
Somebody on Twitter, because when Garoppolo threw that pick, I said at least it wasn't the baby zone, and somebody said, yeah, but it was kind of the adolescent zone. So I think we have a new zone here, John.
Junior high zone.
Yeah, 35 and in, or do you go? 40, because 35 is now you're kicking a 52-yard field goal at 35. What do you think? Or would you go from the 30 to 20?
I'd feel it's like I would go 21 to like 32. Once you get to 35, like that's.
But I want it to be like one of the, long lines, not a hash mark.
I'd probably then go 21 to 30 or 20 to 30 would be the adolescent
I look at the 35. Like, what's the field goal percentage in the NFL on 52-yard field goals?
Not good. Not good. That's not a scoring.
But the field position's fantastic. You're
yeah,
not
to me,
punting. That's
there's a difference between the 30 and the 35. You feel much better about a field goal.
I agree, but it's 4-down territory. Like you know.
Well, it depends on your team.
I'm just saying, like, are you punting from the 35? Maybe, and if you do, you've got a great chance to get the ball back in midfield if you get a stop.
You'd have to ask coaches on this. I would lean 30, but I hear you at 35. Like, I wonder what a coach's take is.
Okay, we need to iron it out, but we agree there's a teen zone here, which is the baby zone is the red zone. You throw a pick. Rich Gannon once said it. I'm not saying it. Rich Gannon once said it on TV a couple of years ago.
And he didn't even say it. A coach said it to him.
A coach said it to him. That's right. So don't kill him for it. He said, better to die a child than turn the ball over in the red zone, I think.
I thought it was better to kill a baby than throw a.
I thought it was like better to die a baby. Yeah, I don't know. But the bottom line was, he said, you're better
a baby
off
dies or a pick.
Baby murder, right? Than the thing that says less.
Again, Rich Gannon's coach, not even Rich Gannon.
So
his coach. He didn't name the coach, so it's an unnamed source. We don't know.
So that's why
was when he was with the Raiders in the the late '90s.
We got some theories who it could have been, but
yeah.
But that's why for years we've been saying it's a baby zone. When you throw a pick in the red zone, that's baby zone. So some of you have been with us for a few years know that. So now we're adding teen zone. The other thing is 30 to 20. I feel like there's not a lot of space. Like I want a teen zone.
But again, the teen zone's small. Like most junior highs, like where we grew up, it was 7th through 9th grade. That is not normal. Most junior highs, right, are just 7th and 8th grade. It should be a small amount of time before you transition.
And 8th grade.
Yeah, I don't know.
I guess 6th grade ends. I don't know.
Yeah, so I would make it smaller. I think we're then expanding this crazy scoring zone.
Curtis says kill a baby. I don't know. We'd have to check the tape on that, but Curtis agrees with you.
Yeah. And he said this like 3 years ago. It feels like I don't know if he could pull that off today, but fuck, I love
when you say somebody else said it, you know.
Yeah, it's the thing. If someone else said it, yeah, you're just repeating what you were told.
That's right. It's a coaching point, John, like tips and overthrows.
Yeah. Well,
which
that
comes
honestly
into play a lot.
It is true. It's why Louis Riddick, who I don't know if you've heard, he knows Nick Saban and Bill Belichick. He played for them, Cleveland. Not the Patriots, didn't do any winning, but with Cleveland, I guess they did win a playoff game. But their big thing is with tips and overthrows is about like taking the right steps, right? The perfect back pedal, the right braking on the routes, knowing the route combinations. If you follow the right angles, tips and overthrows, this is what coaches hammer home to people, end up around you more often, right? If you have the right angle to the guy, because if it goes overthrow, you're right behind him. When you're coming in from bad angles, that's when you have to dive. But a lot of times, if you were right behind him, a tips and overthrows leads to a lot of picks. So like Asante Samuel Jr. Did he get smoked? I mean, he lived a little buffer. Maybe the defense calls for don't get beat deep, right?
Yeah, he wasn't
but
behind
if you're just right,
him, but he was.
If you're just right at the right angle, you just falls right in your hand.
Which is what happened.
Yeah, it feels like it's gonna be hard for Asante Samuel Jr. not to be a pretty good player. Just feels like it's gonna work.
The name, I know. There's.
Feels like it's going to work.
I think you see it with Tatis. You see it with Vlad Guerrero Jr. There is a confidence that comes with the kid of a guy who played in the league and was a star. If you're just around locker rooms and that sort of thing, right? You belong. You feel like you belong. Kyle Shanahan, like all these types of guys. There's a confidence.
When you say especially at that position too, like defensive back, which is harder than it's ever been, just because of the rules. Just like Asante was a very, very confident player for sure, and the loudest motherfucker. You could hear him from like a mile away. A lot of screaming.
They look. Chargers look sweet, and they didn't even play. I mean, they just got. They're gonna be kind of cool. I mean, they are kind of cool. They're cool, and Herbert didn't even play. But they just got guys on defensive guys. Cool defensive guys make your team like a different kind of cool than cool offensive guys can.
They did have some good clips that I saw came out Friday of Derwin and Kittle. Like they went after it pretty good. Like Kittle got him, Derwin was getting him. Like that is an elite blue chip practice matchup for a couple days.
Yeah,
like that's pretty cool. Like that's as good as it gets. Just watching those two guys go at it. Because even if it's like Joey against Trent Williams, I know Trent didn't play, but we're even practice all week. It gets back to the number stuff with the quarterbacks. Like, well, are they really like they take a couple steps and they stop? With a corner and a DB or with a tight end and a safety, like there's a finality to their play, right? Someone's trying to catch it, someone's trying to knock it down. It feels much more true than I think sometimes the line does in practice situations.
Yeah, I saw Kittle had some quotes just about the battle. I mean, it's what you want. It's like that is the most valuable work George Kittle gets in the preseason, right?
Those two guys, yeah.
Yeah, just going one-on-one with Derwin James.
Kittle didn't dress tonight, did he?
No, he was in a sleeveless hoodie, I think.
Yeah, so. Can you pull off the sleeveless hoodie if you're not jacked? Is that just a jack? Yeah, I do sometimes.
You pull it off or you wear it?
Well, I don't pull it off. I have a couple old ones that I have both. I mean, sleeveless, yeah. I mean, I cut the sleeves like Belichick style.
I need a short sleeve hoodie.
Pat Hill move.
It's a good look.
Yeah.
A couple of, the other thing again, not breaking news, Debo and Ayuk. Oh, the Niners-Charger game is still going on as we record this. I think I saw somewhere was there a play reviewed? Oh, it just went final, John, 15-10. So I don't know if that's a cover or not.
Who won?
The Niners, but Kyle Shanahan doesn't look happy.
He looked pretty pissed off, didn't he? Like his body language mid-game was not happy with his quarterback play. Too many inaccurate throws. Sorry,
I'm laughing because both he and Staley wear tight joggers. No, he did not look happy. You're right.
Joe Staley or Brandon Staley?
Brandon Staley. Although Joe looks like he could wear him too.
I saw Barrows tweeted like Joe Staley will not be attending the game. He had to head to his nephew's birthday party. It's like, yeah, he really got into coaching this week. He's like, see you guys.
They ain't paying you to be there.
I did hear Kyle.
I bet his nephew's been telling everybody Joe Staley's coming to my birthday party.
I heard Kyle say he was on Friday afternoon. He was on with Tolbert, and I was picking up dinner, and he had a good point. He's like, I begged Joe at the end of last year. I really wanted him to get into coaching. And he's like, I don't know if I'm quite there yet. And he's like, it's hard when you have as much money as Joe. So I told him, hey, man, we're open to do whatever. I mean, he came in on Instagram. He's out like drinking beers with Alex Mack. Like I think it would be hard if I was Joe Staley. I would not dive back into coaching. Like just fucking enjoy what you got going on for a couple years.
What you should do if you're Joe Staley is try to be an offensive coordinator. Right.
Couldn't he just become Kyle's in like 2 years?
Yeah.
Because Kyle was talking about like he loves Joe.
Because it's like Joe Staley doesn't, not ready for the grind of it. What, are you going to make him an offensive line coach? I don't think that's non-grindy.
No, but the problem is it is hard to football coach. Like if you ever join a staff, like there's just a grind element to like, what are you going to do? Show up at 9?
Like, offensive line coaching is like, are you going to lure him from retirement with the glamour of being an offensive line coach? With all due respect, those guys work their asses off. But
they do
say, Joe, you might be able to be the play caller. Now you're talking to,
But he is an offensive line guy.
I understand, but he was a tight end. Let's not forget. Like maybe this guy wants to call. You got to give him something no one's offering him in order to lure him. Make him
the O-line jobs in the league pay a lot. I mean, it's a 7-figure job.
But he's rich. I'm just saying, like you got to give him some juice that he doesn't have. He's done the offensive line thing for a long time.
Yeah, I would just be like, can I just be like Jed's advisor for $1 million a year? And I'll just show up to a couple games.
Special
and
events.
hang out to
Tailgates.
practice, and then if like McGlinchey and they need a drinking buddy, I'll be there as well. Like
Speak
that's
to
what
the
I
faithful.
do. Yeah, that's what I'd recommend. Joe, you might be able to make the same amount of money every year by negotiating that deal. One thing that I wouldn't say concerning, because I'm not putting this on Ayuk, Jimmy's throw was horrendous. Every practice we went to, including OTAs, he did not one ball hit the ground. A couple times now, the ball's like they're not sticking to his hand.
Yeah. I know I made a note before the game tonight to start referring to Brandon Ayuk as star receiver Brandon Ayuk. Just I was going to call him that so that when he has a breakout, he has a great year, and everyone's like, I was on him first. And people are just like subconsciously in their head are always like, well, Haberman always calling him star receiver Brandon Ayuk. And then after the game tonight, I thought, well, maybe I'll save that for next week.
This is my point, guy, and I fall in this category as well. We do this a lot just because I think people, when you talk, it's inevitable if you're not excited to do this. We are not by any means alone. We're no different than anyone else. The chance, like Brandon Ayuk has to do so much in his career to become a quote unquote star receiver. Right. I mean, he's got a long way to go. Like,
yeah,
can we get back to back 95 catches, right? But it's not even being first. It does just show you, like, we saw what we saw at practice. He looked fucking awesome. Like, I know what a star receiver looks like. He looks like one. But then the games, like, it's hard. I'm not necessarily putting that on him tonight. But, like, does Keenan Allen or Devontae come down with that? Might.
Well, if we said to Brandon, should you have caught that, what would he say?
Yes. What do you think Welker's telling him?
And not in, like, I'm supposed to say that kind of way.
I just think
that's what star players do. They catch the balls sometimes they're not supposed to catch.
Yeah, it is difficult to turn your talent into sustained stardom. What did Tomlin say? I thought Tomlin had an incredible quote on the McVay podcast when Monty Kiffin told all those guys early on, like, one thing about being a coach, like, anyone worth their salt can take a C player and turn them into a B for a couple games, right? Like when a backup needs to start, like, and Tomlin's like, listen, we all take pride in that, right? Like, turn this fifth rounder into a go-to D tackle, like, or a corner. But he's like, really, this league separates. Can you take your A guys or your A minus guys and have them fucking play like at 15 out of 16 weeks?
Yeah.
Because that's really the top coaches get the guys to overachieve, but most coaches do, right? That's your coach. Can you have your sweet players sustain levels? And that's just, they're going to need him to just they're going to need both those two guys, the two wide receivers, to be impact guys for the passing game to be good. Because they are, for the passing game, obviously Kittle is their best player, but they need those guys to have major impact. Probably 150 catches between the two of them, right? What's that? 75 apiece? It's not even that many.
I think they need a little more.
Well,
I did that math before Sherfield came along, but
I'm just talking those two guys.
No, right? I understand. What I'm saying is I did some math on just the replacement, the production replacement they're going to need, particularly like on Bourne, and I think it's going to be 75 to 80. Now, since then, Sherfield, maybe he catches a few more balls. Like when I did the math on them just like matching the last 2 years receiver production, there was like 25 catches out there for somebody to go get. So I don't think that's too high what you're saying. Like, I'm agreeing with you. Let me see if I can find that math I did. But
I said, guy, $500 right now. Over under 140 catches for those two combined. Where would you place?
I mean, I was surprised. I thought Debo wasn't going to play today because of his glute, but he did.
Yeah, he gets gluteus and just those type injuries. Glute, a hammy, a calf. Like, that's the thing with Debo. It's never like, his Achilles popped. It's always just like, he felt something tight in his butt. He felt something in his shoulder. It's always these weird injuries that are clearly a question mark.
Yeah. Somebody asked, JB said, where did this go? JB said bigger upside, Kinlaw or Ayuk. I think it's Ayuk, but Kinlaw from a physicality standpoint is just so different than most people, even in his sport,
Yeah.
How would you answer that?
Ayuk should. That's a tough question. I don't know if Kinlaw can pass rush, and if you can't pass rush, then your ceiling is only so limited, right? You can be a really solid player, but if you're never going to be a 9-10 sack guy, which I don't think he's a great pass rusher, then I'd have to be Ayuk. If he had pass rush talent, you'd say him, because then he could be a double-digit sack guy, but I don't think he is.
So here's what I got on receptions, John, a little little math I did a while back. Kendrick Bourne caught 13% of the available passes last year. Over the last 2 years, if you average the Niners' catches in 2019 and 2020, 2020 was higher. They had to throw the ball more. You get 350 catches. So how do you get to 350 catches with this team? What combination do you use? Understanding there's 17 games, not 16. So then I started to use percentages. But I think if you look at Kittle historically, you look at Kelsey, you need Kittle to catch about 24, 25% of the balls. Okay, so now we're at 76% for the rest of the team to share. You need Ayuk and Debo to get about 20% between the two of them, which on a 350 number is 70 and 65 was the numbers that represent those percentages. But I think you're right; it might have to be higher. You're going to get about 6% of the catches from Juszczyk. You're going to get 5% from Mostert if he's healthy. I gave Sermon 15 catches when I did it. So you still got like 22% of the catches out there for.
And honestly, some of Juszczyk's catches might go to like Warner, like they have their tight ends as well too now. Like they're going to be in the mix a little bit more.
Yeah, but I gave Dwelly had 15 catches 2 years ago.
Oh, he did?
But I'm just saying you got to replace Bourne's 13%. So you need like 22. You need 22% to add up. You're right. But here's the thing: Juszczyk only catches
10 balls,
20 balls.
20 balls.
So anyway, the point is, like, when I did it, yeah, I was at 65 and 70. Would you say 75? But I think your number's about right. I had them at about 135 catches. So
one thing, I saw a couple of the comments on the YouTube that said the wide receivers are having trouble. I mean, they're two dramatically different balls. Like Jimmy is inaccurate and the ball's not as hard. Trey can throw. He threw a couple balls tonight. It looked like 100 mile an hour. It felt Kaepernick-y. That's what kind of jolted me. Is there was some Kaepernick. Like, whoa, why you throwing it so hard?
Yeah.
But then a couple times he threw it really hard. It worked. But like the play to the first touchdown he threw to Mohamed Sanu, did it have to be that hard? And I'm not trying to nitpick, but it was like Jesus. Now it just was very, very fast. Not everything needs to be. One thing I saw tonight, he's going to have to figure out like when to throw 100, when to throw even like 94. Like 94 can still get fucking people out, and then there's a time to just throw 80. But to me, he was only throwing 100 or like 80. There wasn't like, oh, this is a 93. Like it was like Jesus.
Well, the ball that went through Richie James's hands. He's had the drops though. Like we've seen it repeatedly.
I don't even think he had his hand on it.
You think it went right through without touching?
I think it went right through. Yeah.
Yeah, not ideal. Not ideal. But
there's a touch element
for sure.
This gets back to the practice stuff, like the overall NFL practice. You can't practice. If you're Brandon Ayuk, you know they can't touch you in practice, right? So when I'm running over the middle, like, boop, it's like, oh, it looks sweet. I'm standing there, you're standing there. We come home, we talk about it, like, Ayuk. And then that just, when the ball's a little harder from Trey, there's a safety coming down. You can feel them. It's just like, there's just a lot of moving parts. And even, I say this all the time, like, guys don't have to worry about the threat of getting hit. That's kind of true, but there's still human beings there, and you might just run into them full speed. So you're thinking about like the Clinton Dix one, when Tim Ryan's like, could have blown him up. Well, Tim, Ha's not a big blow up guys. Like that's not really his style.
He even said like, he's playing the ball.
But even if you play the ball, you can just run into each other. That hurts.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So there's not Ronnie Lott, those type hits anymore, but there are still collisions of the two guys hitting in space.
And also, maybe Trey Lance is throwing harder in games than he does in practice because now the blood's flowing and right, all those things happen.
Yeah.
So you just
got to club down.
Club down. You got to play more. He's got to get some feel with his clubs. I mean, that's part of this. Trey Sermon didn't play, ankle. I was disappointed no Juwan Jennings, heel, but
not ideal.
Not ideal. You want to talk about ideal, an ideal night's sleep, an ideal start to your week, an ideal weekend, however it all begins or ends, it's got to start at night with sleepnumber.com/ham, John. Sleepnumber.com/ham.
Guys, Sleep IQ technology shows your ideal sleep and wake schedules and the best time for activities like working out and winding down. Sleepers use their smart beds the rhythm feature to improve their bedtime and wake time consistency. You go to bed on time, you wake up at the same time, you get a flow to life, right? You don't want one night you're going to bed at 8:45, the next night you're going to bed at 11:45, and it just throws off your cycle. You want to be consistent. Good night's sleep equals productivity. Productivity equals more money equals success, and then all of a sudden your whole life's better, all because you're sleeping better.
That's right. sleepnumber.com/ham. Right now, discover proven quality sleep only at Sleep Number stores or at sleepnumber.com/ham. Get that REM, get that 7 to 9, limit the alcohol, right? Savor responsibly. Limit the caffeine intake, especially in the afternoon. That's for me. Regulate the temp. I would say, John, my number one draft pick when it comes to good sleep. Number one is mattress. Number two, temperature.
Yeah.
Temperature.
You like it chillier, warmer?
Oh, frigid. There's no such thing as too cold. If you've got
is there a better feeling than going to a hotel room and turning it all the way down and just freezing cold?
I would love if you could get all your hotel. You could just have like a profile no matter where you stay.
Universal Nest.
Yeah, exactly. And you just have it set to you. That's why when people make fun of like, oh, this guy, he's got a driver and a private car that he always has to have it at 66. It's like, if I could have that, the second I get in the car, it's at 66 or whatever the temperature is, I'd be there so fast.
I agree. Sleepnumber.com/ham.
All right. Other stuff. Oh, we had a eventful, I guess we talked Thursday after the podcast. This Raiders story started to develop. It's still developing. The Raiders president and a couple other people, was it 4 other people, left the team under a shroud of secrecy and darkness. And there are some reports that there could be some impropriety at play, although it's hard to tell exactly whose impropriety it might be. It's very bizarre.
It has a, from entertainment standpoint, like Enron, Bernie Madoff. But then you start realizing the people at play, you're like, yeah, it's probably not that high level of an operation. So I tried to text to get to the bottom of it or just see what I could find out. Like, I couldn't find anything out beside what was out there. There is a chance it is just stupidity. Now, stupidity can get you in trouble, right? And it stems back to some loan that they got in the late 90s that they never paid back. And I don't know. But it feels very Raiders. It really does. Now, I was texting with someone the other day. Remember the King story about the president that went rogue? And they had like the 10-year Golden One deal that was like $15 million a year, and they paid on certain cycles, and he just changed the cycles, and he just got in over his head, and there's no looking back. The access you have, and we said this all the time about, like, I don't know if Bourdain broke the law or did anything, but no one would question that for a president who runs an NFL team, there couldn't have been a guy that would have more leeway to do whatever the fuck he wanted in all of the NFL. He would be near the top, right? Just in terms of their checks and balances, because the owner is not a business guy, is not a money guy, that does lead itself. And I have known people in whatever business that they have that have had improprieties happen to their business, like True, where it was legally people breaking the law. Now, ultimately, you don't press charges or whatever, but shady shit's happen at all different. I actually knew someone in Davis where we grew up that had it happen on a lower level, maybe, $20,000 worth of stuff. And I know people that it's been in the 7 figures. It's a jarring thing when it happens, right? And the people that control the money can really kind of do, in the books, can do shady shit, right? It can happen. But I don't think this is like, when you start getting outside counsel, like, we can't act like this is nothing, right?
No, but it's better. They'd be better off if the people who are no longer with the organization were the organization, right? The Raiders are better off that the people who are gone are the ones guilty of impropriety than the other way it could happen is people leave when they realize that something shady is going on, but they don't feel like they have the power to be a whistleblower. They go like, I'm getting out of here. This is a mess. I don't want to be a part of this when this blows up, right? That would be bad. This would be bad, but in the end, you're not getting punished as a team.
SummerSlam. Were you at SummerSlam yesterday?
Yeah.
SummerSlam was
Box
rocking and
seats
rolling
next to Simmons and Cowherd.
and you sent me the Allegiant Stadium was having some issues, right?
No, you sent it to me. Don't make me the bad guy.
Are you sure you didn't send it to me?
I mean, we can check the tape here.
I thought you sent it to me, but I was really intoxicated by the time this text message transition. I'm not afraid.
I've been to Allegiant. I think it's really cool, so I'm not into.
But again, this place is badass. My first thought, like when I got up and I could gather my thoughts, was, is there a chance Bourdain, who was also in charge of like paying the bills, and it's just this thing, like the Raiders are a true mom and pop shop. Like I don't think that they don't have the toilet water going. I could just see Mark leaving and all of a sudden no one with the Raiders knows, like, if you and I just needed someone to do some of the podcast business, they wouldn't know where, if we just gave it to someone and we just took off, they wouldn't even know where to start, right? So there might be people that are involved with just doing basic things like paying the fucking water. They don't even know where the bill comes to. Like that was my thought. That it's simple, like that some went unpaid because of the transition with the president.
And you don't think there'd be like a phone call from the local Vegas water department, like, "Hey Raiders, just FYI, we know you have an event this weekend. We're going."
But wasn't the power not working for the
cashless
kiosks?
payments?
Yeah, it was just a disaster. My point is, it's understandable. Like they run it like a mom and pop shop.
That's your point?
In a mom and pop shop, if someone leaves, there's a huge missing element. Like in a corporate, situation, there's usually not these huge holes.
Right.
If you told me that Bourdain actually personally, not like used the Raiders' money to like he was in charge of the water bill for the state, like that is believable, right? Or his secretary did it.
Yeah, that there's not actually as many people working for them who handle all that stuff as other organizations have.
Or just like his little operation did it, and now it's like it's just blown up.
It's not crazy. You sent me the text, by the way.
I did. Okay.
Not shockingly.
Someone forwarded it to me.
Probably a Raider fan. You have a lot of friends that are Raider fans. You know a lot of Raider fans. You're a big Raider fan.
But I'm not talking shit. Like the place looks incredible.
I know. I wish that, they're playing this week. I wish they were playing in real life, like in a regular season. Bay Bridge Series, John. That's good TV.
It is.
These Giants.
Well, but do you think Derek's going to play this week?
No. Why would he? He hasn't played the first 2 weeks. Feels like Gruden never. Like he's just gone full. I don't blame him.
Well, Mariota's been hurt.
No, I know, but I'm just saying, like, has Derek's played in the preseason before, hasn't he?
I feel like he has, but I get back to the preseason. It disappears fast. Nothing disappears faster than the preseason. Like you remember regular season things, but you don't remember any preseason stuff. Well, if you never play again and that's your one moment, that's what you remember. Here's the way I'll put it: if I remember your preseason stuff, it's not a good thing.
It's well said.
Yeah.
It turned out Jalen Ramsey and Jerry Rice 2.0, neither one of them played in the Raiders-Rams game.
No, they didn't.
Somebody texted me like, "You watching this?" I'm like, "Oh no, let me flip over." And then I watched. I'm like, "Why am I?" No.
Did you follow the parking lot debacle at the Coliseum?
I did. Yeah.
How could they possibly have an overflow when they have so much space? Like how's that possible to fuck that up?
I mean, I don't know what the capacity at those lots are. It wouldn't shock me if they're not built for 40,000 people to be driving in. But
how many people are coming to Raider games?
Yeah, but how many of them drive?
What do you mean?
Well, I'm just saying, what is the capacity of the parking lots? That's my question.
I thought it was huge.
They're huge when I'm there. Now, ingress egress is a phrase I learned only because of the Coliseum, because everyone was always talking about ingress and egress for years. I'm like, what the? I had to Google it. I mean,
it's the greatest ingress egress in America.
Yeah,
right?
now it's the greatest because there's 8,000 people.
Yeah.
When there's 40,000, like a Raider game, I'm not like, oh, incredible egress.
No, now, Raider games was always a shit show.
But it is just boom, boom, you're on the highway.
Yeah.
The
Raider games were a problem sometimes.
But I don't know how it's possible. I mean, 40,000 people are coming. It sounded like it was
they're
miserable.
not used to it.
No, but it sounded miserable. It sucks. There's nothing worse. I mean, being stuck in traffic is it like feels like a nothing to people who aren't in it. But when you're in being stuck in traffic, particularly if you got to be somewhere, it's to me like it's as mad as a human being can get at a thing that's not probably going to affect your life. You know, like put aside like real things like illness and, you know, family dissension, you know, divorce and like things that like make you as mad as you can possibly be. That traffic might be number one on that list.
I would say traffic, like when you know you're going into it and you can prepare and you're not in a rush to get somewhere. But to me, when you pay for an event, and obviously I would imagine dynamic pricing, and some of the, I mean, stuff I read on social media, people miss like 2 hours of the game because they're stuck. They couldn't get anywhere. Like, that's a problem.
People who prepaid for parking couldn't get in.
That sucks. Like away. I feel they're paying there. I might just turn around and go. But the problem is if you have your kid, it's a big deal. When I used to go to a lot of games as with media passes, retired now, if I go, I just sit with the people. There is like, it's a big deal for people to go to games. You know, I think sometimes, I know I used to take it for granted because I've said this all the time. My first ever NFL game was like when I started working in the NFL. I'd never been to a game up until 2010. And we get so much cool access to see the Warriors and Giants and just all these places. Go to any team if you want, if you're traveling. It used to be a really big deal. I remember when I was a kid going with my dad. It is a big deal for a lot of people just to attend a game, right? And if that experience sucks, like it can really kind of rattle you.
Yeah. We probably shouldn't give like our hardest takes on this, given that we didn't see it. But a couple of things here. The chat is alerting us to the fact that Kyle was just asked if he's ready to name his Week 1 starter. David C. on YouTube says, "Attention, guys. Kyle was just asked if Jimmy's the starter. He said, nice try. He said he'll answer that when he's ready." Dan says, "Just listen to Kyle. The giggle when he's asked if he's ready to start Jimmy for Week 1. Apparently there was a giggle. The giggle was very telling. I don't know how telling the giggle was. I have to see a giggle before I can rate a giggle. But Mayoko says, Kyle says he's not ready to name a Week 1 starter. Eric Branch writes, Kyle Shanahan said Jimmy Garoppolo remains the clear starter as he was at the start of training camp. Quote, the situation is pretty similar. Then he declined to name Garoppolo the Week 1 starter.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Trey's alive.
Trey's alive.
He could have become, I think he could have become the starter tonight. Like we talked about earlier, he didn't. It's been
Trey could have or Jimmy could have?
Trey could have.
Yeah.
I don't think Jimmy can lock the door. He does not have a padlock on his door.
I don't think Trey Lance was as bad as like everybody thought he was.
It was pretty bad the first couple series, guy.
It was jumpy. All right, let me rephrase this. I don't think the way he looked tonight affected this QB competition as much as people think because, again, I think part of the takeaway is the guy needs to play. He needs to play.
And he's his guy. He went all in. But I also think just big picture, when you have a project like this, and when I say project, a guy that just needs a lot of work, the only way for Kyle, back to what you're saying, is to get work on him, is to coach him up as he's playing, right? You don't really get to develop once the season starts because you're obsessed with your opponent.
Well, like
all you do all week is game plan and then run plays with the game plan and then working on the fucking game plan all week long. Every Peter King article starting week 1 to week 17, all kind of the same. Like, I was talking with Josh McDaniels, and Friday night they had this one play. Then by Saturday night, that's all you're thinking all week are the plays. You're not like, we really worked on his takeaway motion when he has the backstroke of his right arm. Like you don't have time. Even in the NFL, which is all football, you're obsessed with your opponent. You're obsessed with it.
You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of like watching F1. I didn't really know. I've never knew anything about F1. I mean, you might have been the one to tell me about the show on Netflix. One thing I didn't know about how the F1 racing works, I thought they all had the same exact car. It didn't make sense to me that they would have different cars because they all look the same to me because I'm an amateur F1 watcher. But then you watch these seasons. I didn't realize they spend their whole off season like revamping their car and getting it ready to roll. And then the season starts and like that's their car for the year. They're not changing it as they go. I mean, they're fixing it and they're doing some things, but like the car they got is the car they got.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what we're talking about here is like you've got, if you don't play a guy, then there's really not much. It's a little different, I guess. But if you don't play a guy, you can't really do a season. There's no time for changing the formula over the course of the year. Like what you got at the beginning, this is where the analogy doesn't work, is actually you need to play in order to keep reworking yourself as the year goes along, right? But if you don't play Lance, then the season ends, and what really have you changed? Maybe some things, right? You get to watch and you understand all the other, but the gameplay itself hasn't changed. And then you roll into the next year, and the guy spent another year not having played football. He's playing, John. He's playing. I don't know if it's week 1. I still think it could be week 1, but he's playing. And I don't mean like some snaps. I mean, he's starting football games.
Yeah. PFF just tweeted this out. Most drop passes this preseason, Trey Lance. 7.
Well, does that absolve him? How do we? That's interesting.
No,
it's partly on him, or is it not on him at all? Like you could, like if I didn't watch any Niners and I read that stat, I'd be like, Trey Lance's receivers are screwing him. But is it 100% that?
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
I don't.
It's not nothing.
Yeah, I mean, some of them he's throwing to like, I mean, Ayuk dropped the one in the first game. Richie James' ball went right through his hand today. Like some are just terrible, right? It's just low level. Like if that happens in a game, it's a problem.
Yeah.
And then there are the one like I don't know what they consider the Jimmy Ayuk play, right? Is that a drop or is that a pick? How does that work?
Think that's a pick. I don't think that's a drop.
I think Haberman here is right on this. I think he wants to start Trey Lance. I think it's just that simple. I think he wants to start Trey Lance.
Which again, I reached that conclusion. You reached that conclusion. Of course he does. He traded up to 3 for him.
Yeah.
He put his nuts on the table for him. Of course he wants to play him.
If Trey would have had like he'd played in the games like he had in practice, he'd probably
in the words, you know who I'm about to quote?
No.
In the words of Cedric the Entertainer. It is Cedric, right?
I don't know. What are you going with here?
I wish a motherfucker would be in my seat.
Yeah.
He wants I wish he would become the starter.
Was Jimmy locked to then be on the 49ers?
I think so, yes. Because are you positive it's going to go great if you name him the starter? Or are you just dedicated to I'm playing him 17 games no matter what it looks like?
Yeah, then there's a whole nother conversation we'd get into with the money. Like, can you have a $25 million backup? I mean, Kyle could. He won't care, but Jed and
yeah. My first question is, are you going into the season like he is playing 17 games no matter how it looks, or is it now we think we can win with them? Because if it's now we think we can win with them, then you keep Jimmy around. Because if it reveals that you can't win with them, then you make a change.
You got to pivot. Yeah.
I mean, you got him sitting there. You got 2 quarterbacks sitting here. Garoppolo sitting here. If Trey Lance is your starter, I say keep him. Not my $25 million though, Jed.
Yeah,
but is it really his money?
I mean, it's kind of Jed's, but it's also the league's generating.
You just look at it like it's just profits.
Yeah, so I would keep him as the backup at $25 million, but that's not always how the NFL works. And I could see them asking him to take a pay cut, and that could get ugly, and he could say get fucked, especially because where he would be coming from is it would happen fast on him. He would have been the starter all camp. He had never not, and then all of a sudden it flips, which feels like a possibility. It'd be pretty jolting to Jimmy, right? Even though Jimmy knows he's fighting it off, all of a sudden, yeah.
Yeah.
I'd say Jimmy's $25 million is in trouble right now. I'll be a little stunned. I think you're a little more confident that they would just sit him in the back making 25 if he doesn't start. That's just not the way
I'm not confident. I'm just saying I think that's what you should do unless you are just totally dedicated to once we go with Trey, we are not looking back, which would be fine.
Yeah. So you'd be cool with cutting him? Because that would be kind of
No, I would not be cool with it. No, I'm saying this is what I would keep him around, but it's not my $25 million.
Yeah. I guess my ultimate
because I've watched this team
cutting him is not out of the realm of possibility. Then if you just go with Trey,
I've just watched this team, John, go all in on like one player, an injury here, an injury there, and the whole thing blows up. That I would it's an expensive insurance policy, but again, if the Niners were coming off, they went to the NFC Championship game last year, then I wouldn't care as much about it. But you've been bad more than you've been good, right? So you can't be week 6. Trey Lance gets hurt. And now your season's tanked because you didn't want to keep Jimmy around. Again, if you had gone to the NFC title game last year, whatever. But they didn't go to the NFC title game last year.
They went 6-10.
Last I checked.
They did go to Arizona for a month.
Is that where the NFC Championship game was?
No, that's just where they had to
Fiesta
live
Bowl?
when Santa Clara kicked him out.
Tanker Crew Chief says Hufanga looked like Polamalu. How you feeling about Talanoa Hufanga right now? Because you notice, you've said this, so they weren't the first. You've said it, but Tim Ryan and Greg Pop are one of those like, oh, they really like this guy, which of course they're standing there next to Adam Peters and John Lynch, and then John Lynch telling him how much he likes the guy probably.
Well, he's a lock to make the team. I mean, he's starting these preseason games now, obviously because other guys are not. But that shows you like he's making the team. He's on the special teams. They love him. You know what really stood out to me? Did you hear? What's his name? T-Rock and Greg Papa mention this.
Was it T-Rock? Is that what he was calling him, or T-Rock?
I thought it's T-Rock.
I mean, T-Rock makes sense. He looks
he looks like a T-Rock when you think
dome.
the music he would listen to, Camaro, mid '80s, drop top. Do you hear who was calling the game next to them? I've been saying this for a while. They are the next Sunday night crew.
Wait, what?
He said Mike Tirico and Drew Brees were calling a fake game tonight at the stadium.
Yeah.
Now they're doing Notre Dame this year, I think, right? Drew Brees and Mike Tirico are calling Notre Dame for NBC. But to me, it's a 100% lock if Brees is just like Tirico's taking over for Al Michaels, right, in the next year or two.
Yeah. I mean, he was doing Monday Night Football.
Yeah, I mean, he's legitimate. He will do Sunday night. Yeah. Chris Collinsworth is in his 60s, and he's just not that famous anymore. I mean, he's famous because he calls games, but the history of the way the shit works is they always like to get another famous guy, right? You don't get those guys. I don't see how they're not calling the NBC game in the next 2 years. Tirico will be. I don't know if Drew Brees is good enough, but they clearly would want that. Like, they hired Drew Brees to me to do that job.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying.
Did Greg say Tirico invented the phrase pick six? Is that what he said?
I don't know. Is T-Rock? That's what he said?
No. Did Greg Papa say that Mike Tirico invented the phrase pick six? That's what I thought I heard him say.
Do you think, could you learn a lot about a trial game knowing that they know that it, well, for Mike, it doesn't matter, but for Breeze?
Yeah.
Like, it's not actually on. Do you think you get a pretty good vibe whether he'd be good or not?
Yeah.
You ever done a trial game?
I have.
And you can feel like you can just lock in like it's a normal game? I guess you're there doing it to you.
No, I did one off a monitor once.
Gotcha. But if you were doing a fake game tonight, if you're there and calling it live, it'd be pretty easy to psych yourself in. You're just doing a normal game, right?
I mean, it's not the same. When you're on real TV, like it's,
yeah,
you know, you get butterflies. I don't know if they would get butterflies for that, but I've done a few of them, and it's not the same. Like one I did just devolved into just making up names and whatever. So it's not the same thing, but I do think you could get a pretty good idea. Like, is this guy entertaining? Is he a good communicator? Like, yeah, you could. I think they would know pretty quick.
Because I've questioned Drew Brees. Like, is it really going to work? I heard Peter Schrager say something to McVay. He kind of did too. He's like, I've talked to Drew over the years, and it's like, I don't know if he's just going to be this TV star. And then McVay came in. He's like, well, I've had the chance to like have legitimate conversations with him, like just about like when he gets animated, at dinners and stuff. And McVay was like, I think he'll probably be pretty good. Like, I think you're not giving him enough credit just because the way he interviews for something for the Saints and how he can just be being a guy's guy. Like, you see these clips of him, like, it makes sense now why he was at these practices probably all week, right? They want him to just treat it like it would be a normal week. And he probably wants the reps. But me either. But I just thought he was like pad in Southern California, just taking the kids. And
I thought he was going on a tour of places,
but now it makes a little more sense. But I could just see him. Maybe it's unfair for me to just think that he doesn't have some serious shit to him.
Well, I think you can get tricked in person. Not that the person tricks you, but hanging out with somebody doesn't always translate to TV. I think it happens a lot where you're with someone, you're like, oh man, that was really enjoyable. They were really sharp. They really got it. They're entertaining. Doesn't always translate to television. That's the one thing I would say to McVay. Because you still have to.
He was just offended.
No, he might be right. It's good insight. I'm just saying, from experience, it doesn't always translate.
Well, would you be pretty confident McVay would be good at TV?
I'd be extremely confident.
Yeah. So there are like,
but again, McVay does a lot of that stuff. Kind of. He's always explaining plays and stuff. in an entertaining
Tomlin.
way. Hey, Peter,
Like with
man,
Tomlin,
let me tell you, Peter.
If you ran Monday Night Football and you could pick McVay or Tomlin, who would you take?
I would not, like, if you would ask me that before I listened to the thing, I would have said McVay without even thinking. I mean, Tomlin is wildly entertaining.
But those guys are just unique personalities, and they're viewed that way. So it's probably not even fair.
Tomlin would be at the top of my list for TV.
But Arians is a guy like Bruce Arians when he got a lot of personality, and then I watched him do TV. Now, granted, it was a 3-man booth. He was terrible.
Yeah,
and I bet he was thinking like, I can't swear. I got to be corporate.
He's also kind of, when you watch him be entertaining, he's kind of a subdued entertaining. You know.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
I ordered DoorDash twice today.
Is it here?
No, I mean it happened earlier today.
Oh, well, this was
breakfast.
John, this was your
lunch.
You were treating Sunday like a regular Sunday. You know, when you're gonna have.
It was a little outrageous. And my second purchase, I bought something for dinner too, so I didn't have to order a third thing.
Wait, so you ordered like a breakfast burrito, hungover, easy justification.
Yeah, or it was breakfast. I just got like a breakfast delivered. And then a couple hours. Sometimes when I'm hungover, I get
doesn't always
really
travel
hungry.
great.
No, but it was quick. I got like cinnamon roll. I ate a dirty breakfast.
Oh.
And then like 2 hours later, I'm hungry again. So I get a sandwich, but I get to this place that also like has salads and stuff. So I did a little 2-for-1 and got a salad for dinner and like a burger for lunch. But they were both ordered within probably 2.5. It was a record within 2.5 hours, all for myself.
Hey, bro, did this order duplicate? Because I just saw you. That would have been funny if it was the same delivery person.
No, I wouldn't say we got into it, but like sometimes when they do a second delivery, they could fool you. Like if they got to do multiple deliveries. And like where I live, there are a couple other streets that if you turn on the wrong street, you can head a completely different area. And so it always says he's headed to me, but sometimes he has multiple deliveries. So I'm like texting him like, bro, you're right. You went down the wrong street. He's like, no, I got a second delivery. I'm like, well, I'm right here. Why didn't you just stop here first? And so, I wouldn't say contentious, but when he handed me the food, I, wasn't like, bro hugs. Could be a reflection of me. I don't know. Edgy.
A couple other just notes, John. Bears situation is not going great with their quarterbacks. I don't know if you saw any highlights, Fields or Dalton, but they were down 28-0, I think it was. Mitchell Trubisky was slicing and dicing them. Is there any shame in getting sliced in the preseason by Trubisky for the Bears?
I think it was a little bit of a kick in the dick for Bears fans, for Nagy. I also saw today just a headline where Fields, I don't know if he talked after the game or today to the media, was like kind of telling Bears fans, like, stop booing Andy Dalton for me. Like, stop doing that.
Stop chanting my name when Andy's in the game, yeah. Like chanting for David Carr when Alex is in the game.
Do you know what's crazy about these two quarterback situations? Both of them are extremely polarizing. They are dramatically different. Kyle is basically telling you, like, I swear to God, if Trey Lance throws one touchdown, Jimmy's fucked. Where Nagy's saying this, and everyone's like, what are we doing? They're just begging for Fields. Like, please put him in. I felt it. Like, I was like, I'm going to go work out yesterday. But then the Bears started at 10. So I'm like, I'll just watch a couple series of them. Well, it takes a while to get there. And then all of a sudden, it's almost the end of the first half, and Dalton's still in the game. I'm like, take him out of the game. But they're down like 28-0, like you said, and they're getting their ass kicked. They couldn't yank him. He finally kind of throws this prayer touchdown that like hits the DB's helmet, bounces into the dude's hand. Turns out the dude also had a baby, like had a great weekend, so he scored a touchdown, had a baby. But it wasn't like he hits him in stride. It was a go route that like bounced off, hit off his hands. It was like, and then he got him out of there with a touchdown. It's like, I don't know if that was a true touchdown. Guy 28-0.
I know. And then Dalton hit a deep bomb that they all celebrated. Yeah, I mean, the difference, right, is that nobody at a Bears game is wearing any Dalton jersey but his family. Like, Jimmy Garoppolo has been the guy that everybody wanted for a few years in San Francisco. It's just a different – there was some appreciation for him, right? There was no loyalty for Andy Dalton in Chicago.
Well, I also think, like, you could wear a Jimmy Garoppolo – like, you'll see Jimmy Garoppolo jerseys at Levi Stadium this year. And if Trey Lance comes in for Jimmy, that guy will get up and cheer. Right. It's just kind of we're all in this boat together, where every Bears fan would throw Andy off the boat right now without hesitation. If you told Bears fans they cut Andy Dalton and went with Justin Fields and Foles as their backup, everyone would be elated. Don't you think?
Well, there wouldn't be any like, hey, man, appreciate what you did for the organization. because he hasn't done anything for the organization.
Do you agree that spot for a guy, and I mean, he's making $10 million, and he made 3 last year and he wasn't good, so it's kind of like, it's pretty crazy that he got the raise. I think he is a high character. People really like him. It does suck to be in that spot. Like how you have a city, and it's not a random city, it's a major American city, hates you. Like it feels, if you're him, it has to feel like they don't like me, right?
Yes. I think that's what it feels like.
Yeah, you're just
like I'm just here working my
hate
ass off trying to win for you guys.
I saw his quote was like, hopefully we throw a lot of touchdowns and they'll all be happy. It's like, I don't know if you're going to throw a lot of touchdowns, Andy. I don't.
One other
I'm
take
telling
I
you,
had.
I think he's going to get hurt. I think he's going to get hurt, and then Fields is going to come in.
These things tend to. I'm not saying that's working itself out, but the odds that Andy Dalton keeps Justin Fields off the field for like 2 months or whatever, very low.
Yeah, very low.
One other piece of scouting from the weekend, John. Ben Roethlisberger's arm looks back to me. Now, Ben, by the time we get to November, it could be a different animal, but I watched a 6-minute highlight package on Game Pass, and Ben was throwing bullets. So just FYI. Maybe he's got that core, the hip explosion, the core turn, slim down Roethlisberger.
Yeah, he feels like he benefits a lot from the warm weather. That old cranky body. It gets a little cold. He's like Tiger at Harding Park. That back stiffens up, and then you just, I don't know. That makes me a little nervous on old Big Ben. Yep. I watch the Browns. They don't play anybody either. It just feels like they got a high level operation. It's like I watch the Browns and like I think they're going to be good. I mean they are. I mean they have star players everywhere, but you just go, yeah, it's a legitimate team.
Yeah. Did you watch any of Joe Thomas's excessive sweat?
Was it just really hot there? Was that his deal?
Yeah, it was like 85 degrees. And I took some photos and sent them to a buddy who's friends with Joe. And I'm like, bro, like, why does Joe Thomas...
Couldn't he just wear a Browns polo?
So this is my take. It's hard to tell on my phone.
They were doing a good job of like showing the tweets about excessive pit stains, and they were showing it during the broadcast. And he's a good personality, obviously.
Oh,
so
yeah,
he played into it.
But like, John,
does he need to be wearing a button up for this game?
Yeah, folks, this is sports. They were actually wearing blazers when they went to the booth. Which, by the way, I know we have like a Browns fan that's a very diehard listener of the show. The fact that I just watched the NFL Network and Paul D. Podesta's there just breaking it down, I don't think ever stops being crazy. It's incredible.
He went to the booth?
Yeah, he was in the booth. And guess what? He's impressive. Shocker. And he's talking about like NFL stuff and saying NFL words and phrases. And he sounds like an NFL guy. You wouldn't know any different. It's wild.
He transitioned pretty well.
It's incredible. It really is. So they go to the booth. These guys, the broadcasters are wearing blazers. I'm like, folks, put them in a polo. What are we? This is preseason football. I get it. Sunday, okay, put on a tie. I think like no baseball broadcast should ever wear a suit unless it's like the World Series and the playoffs and maybe some big games. But otherwise, like the local show, do what most people do now, which is like a zip up and a polo. These guys do not put. And then Joe, bold, right, wears a super tight shirt, no undershirt, so he's bound to just be, just soaked, and he was.
Yeah, I did not. I might have to go back and Google the D. Podesta. Can you imagine like watching a Giants game? Be like, let's just go to the assistant GM Bob Myers. All right, what do you think about this new center fielder?
John Lynch is here.
That is pretty fucking nuts.
I watched it. It's just like I know he's in charge here, but to watch,
get
I was in
about
awe
as much anymore.
No, I don't think it does get talked about. I was in awe. Like this is really impressive.
And his bold take did come back alive last year, right? He didn't think Carson was a top 20 quarterback. Wasn't that his thing?
Yeah, I made fun of him.
He did trade away Deshaun Watson, which, also doesn't look too terrible right now.
Just let it play out over time.
I didn't see one snap, but there was a lot of love, and I only box score scouted. I think he was 9 of 11. I actually saw a couple highlights. Zach, I think, had a good game.
Zach Wilson, I did not watch the game.
Now they don't play anyone either, right? They don't even play. They're too deep.
Somebody said this on the chat earlier. Zach Wilson looked good yesterday. But he just has looked. When I've watched him twice now, he's looked comfortable.
Well, it's like I texted a buddy on the Eagles, about the second quarter, right? I'm like, God, Mac Jones looks pretty good. And he responds, yeah, against our threes. This gets back like they did. So if your starters and then half your backups don't play, by the time you're in the second quarter, like your 90-man roster is full go, right? So it's just this is the thing with the preseason where you got to be like it's just hard to tell. You don't know what's what till later. Now you can see physical attributes, like we can see it with Trey. You can see it with Trevor Lawrence, who's going to play tomorrow. You can see it with Zach, right? He's a scrambling player. Like he's a fun player. Do you agree there? Like Zach Wilson is just kind of the way he plays.
The way he played in college, would it translate? He's looked kind of fun when I've watched him.
Yeah. Is it going to translate to the season though? We'll see. I think it's going to be tougher.
But his style is going to be his style, I think, which will be kind of fun.
They had a day, though, the other day where they lost their star pass rusher and their starting safety. It was like both guys got carted off in a practice. It's just
maybe it's Phil
Savage. I saw a Browns fan tweet. He's like, it reminds me of 07, the Browns. They had a good year in 06. They signed two big players in free agency. One of them's like a star center, like the equivalent. He's probably more famous, and younger than Alex Mack. I mean, maybe not as famous as Alex Mack, but like he was like a very expensive center. Charles Bentley was his name. Phil said the first day, I think it might have been OTAs, like team activities, his leg snapped, and it's just like it just throws everything off. Like when you have a major player who gets hurt in camp, it is hard to shake that. Like Carl Lawson, I saw one of their defensive linemen. Because I follow what's the Yes Network or whatever, one of the SY New York,
SNY.
And they cover the Giants, the Jets, the Yankees, the Mets. It's just an easy Twitter follow, right? They just give me a lot of shit, and they were interviewing one of the Jets like a week ago, and he was like, "Hey, let's just get the elephant in the room out of the way here. Carl Lawson hasn't been blocked yet." Like he's kind of hyping him up because he was kicking the shit out of everyone. He's a legitimate. I mean, they gave him like $50 million. Pops his Achilles. Like that is such a kick in the dick. Even if your team wasn't going to be that good, if you're just the Joe Douglas, like that's just your star pass rusher.
Well, even if your team wasn't going to be that good, when you I bet Robert Saleh.
He was going to be good.
I bet Robert Saleh thought they had a chance, even if they don't.
Yeah.
He thinks like, man, if we just do this, we got Carl Lawson, we might have the best player on the field most games. Like we got a shot, right? That's what you think.
And it just ends. And not only does it just end, you go, is he ever going to be the same? That's what you start asking yourself. You're like, that sucks.
That's where the ACL versus the Achilles is so major.
It's also why the guaranteed money in these football contracts is all we ever talk about, right? He hadn't even played a game yet. Right. And who knows? We've seen like Jerick McKinnon, who's watching the Chiefs game on Friday night, who actually makes some cool plays. Like, is Jerick McKinnon just going to be okay for Andy? But he got injured, and it just derailed his Niner career.
Did you know we have games next Sunday, preseason week 3?
We got Raiders-Niners at 1 o'clock, correct?
Yeah, that's one of the 5 games. For some reason, I thought they were all Saturday, but there's 5 games next Sunday. Don't worry, folks. We'll be doing a full preseason week 3 preview later in the week. We have 4 games Friday, John, including all 4 games feature who cares? Never mind.
No one gets excited more with the preseason than doesn't watch it like Guy Haberman.
I did one of these, like,
you don't need to sell the people. Like, they're good. If it's on, they'll watch it. If they're not, we get it.
Sam Darnold does look good in a Panthers uniform. I'll tell you that. The Lions, time to start scouting the Lions. All right, if you're a Niner fan, start scouting the Ravens. If you're a Raiders fan, Tyler Huntley.
Exactly. I mean, what are we doing? Okay.
So, I mean, the people arrived at like 7:30 tonight, John. I feel like we should go till midnight. But if you weren't here at the beginning, here's what you need to know. Among other things, this podcast is sponsored by Tito's Handmade Vodka. I'm having tonight a what was this one called from our guy Devin? The pineapple juice and ginger ale. Oh, this was the fruit mule, the Tito's fruit mule. Keep sending us pictures of your Tito's beverages. A little pineapple. This is actually pineapple mango. A little Trader Joe's. Somebody tell me if they find a better ginger ale, but I like this one from Trader Joe's.
How often do the Habermans go to Trader Joe's? Once a week?
It's our primary grocery store.
No shit. So you guys are very loyal. Honestly, I can't even tell you the last time
It's
I went
harder to
in.
wander around a Trader Joe's. Like I wander around a Safeway. Like all the food I could possibly need is here, and I have no idea what to buy. Trader Joe's smaller. It's a smaller wander.
That's true. I'm gonna go to Trader Joe's tomorrow, then try it out.
You should, because they got a lot of good like pre-made stuff. Pre-made salad in a box, little wraps. They got stuff that just throw it in the microwave.
Little ravioli meal, little this, little that, little chicken.
Exactly.
Boom.
Exactly.
Yeah, I like that.
So everybody get your mailbag questions in. Keep sending us photos of you and your Tito's. We appreciate you sharing wherever you share them with us. And get in the mailbag, and we'll have another great week. Anything else, John?
I saw this is a good one. The Detroit Lions drink Smirnoff, not Tito's. Losers.
Oh, who said that?
He just said Carlo. He just said Lions. I take it he means the Detroit Lions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good one, Carlo. Okay. Was there something? No, I think that's. Thanks to everybody. I know what I was gonna say. Thanks to everybody who hung out tonight. Hey, tell your friends, and we'll talk to you later.
Have a great week. See you guys a little later.
Later, everybody. Thanks for hanging.